All right, let's start with this top story this morning, which is the Western media and the attacks in Ukraine on the unfolding drama. There's so many different pieces to the story, but I want to tackle one big piece of the story here out of the gate, which is if you've been watching Western media over the past couple of weeks, no doubt you thought that the Ukrainian war just started 3 weeks ago, right? If you've been watching CNN or mainstream media. And also, Vladimir Putin bad, invading Ukraine, hurting innocent civilians. Zelensky great, he's a hero. We're putting him on the front cover of Time magazine. That's the narrative you've been fed, right?
That's the extremely simplified narrative, yes.
Yes. Well, the truth is much more nuanced than that. And the attacks that we've been seeing in certain parts of Ukraine are not necessarily coming from Russian forces. In fact, journalists on the ground in eastern Ukraine are reporting some unbelievable stories unfolding about Ukrainians actually attacking other Ukrainians, which is an extension of the war that had been going on for 7 years as it is. So, but the Western media is quick to blame these attacks on different residential buildings, schoolyards, shopping centers, on Russians. Turns out, though, they're coming from Ukrainians. Patrick Lancaster is a reporter. He's been there for 8 years on the ground covering this story. And what he saw just 2 days ago in the center of a shopping district is Ukrainians attacking civilians, Ukrainians.
In the Russian separatist
Yes,
areas.
in the Donbass region, right?
Yes.
Blowing up food supplies, food trucks. I want to play this video. This is just moments after this attack, this cluster bomb, which had been confirmed by Ukrainian authorities in that area. Listen.
Although, I will say that if you find this separately on his own channel, YouTube has already marked it.
Oh, they block it, yeah.
As something that is unconfirmed. And so this is already something that you are not supposed to think happens. We're supposed to think of it as a binary, good and bad. So
and we'll probably get blocked for this. So, hey, that's what we would.
You know how I feel about you saying that.
I know, but I'm just warning you. And, last night someone wrote to us saying, Clayton, I thank you for saying that, because there are a lot of people that don't know that YouTube censors videos, that's the truth. So we're going to play this. You're going to watch it, but they might block us for it.
Okay,
later.
you got that comment from somebody, but my mom said, stop saying that. Stop putting it out there. So
okay, Mom,
we feel differently about this, but we've given you our disclaimer. Roll the tape.
Yeah, let's play this video. Okay, this is Patrick Lancaster reporting on the ground in this region moments after this Ukrainian cluster bomb, according to journalists in that area.
And Center Donetsk has just been hit in a shelling attack. Donetsk is the capital of the anti-Ukraine government, Donetsk People's Republic. Ukraine had launched an attack on the civilian center. There's no military here. We see this a food-carrying truck with vegetables in the back has been destroyed. We've already seen one man injured, put in the ambulance, bloody. Here's another civilian car hit. You see the ambulance?
And all of these stores have been destroyed.
These are civilians.
So he points out there is no military there. This is not a place that already was involved in conflict. This is a place that has been pro-Russia for many years, and Russian troops moved in and have claimed it for themselves. So why would there be fighting still there? Because Ukraine is trying to reclaim it?
Well, so, he went on further. Well, yes, of course, or also push those individuals out. We showed you that graph the other day of how many of the Ukrainian refugees have been leaving Ukraine and fleeing. And where were they going? A lot of them were going to Poland, right? Hundreds of thousands of them, though, were going to Russia. This is a story you're not going to hear in the mainstream media. They don't want to talk about that piece of it. So many of these ethnic Russians are saying, wait a second, I don't want to be a part of Ukraine that's being attacked for the past 8 years. That's not what I want. So he then, in this video, I don't want to play all of it because we'll get flagged even more, because there's a lot of bloody video in this and there's a lot of people injured in this video. And so just for that reason alone, YouTube will block it or put it under a sensitive comments ban. But there are interviews with Ukrainians that were attacked in this, and he asks them, and he goes up to their windows and talks to them and talks to the old ladies and asks them specifically, what happened here? What's going on? To which this woman says, let me pull up the other quote here. He says, "What do you want from me? Can you tell me what happened here?" He asks. "What happened Ukrainians destroyed everything to write off everything on the Russians. That's what happened. Do you understand it? The bastards left. They smashed and they plundered everything, she says. The Ukrainian army left and shoots? Yes. When the Ukrainian troops retreated, they smashed everything. They broke my door, so I have to sleep with the door open. Do you understand? It's cold. The radiators are cold. There's no gas, no electricity, no water, no heat. Like, that's just a sampling. That's just a small sampling. He goes on to explain, he was interviewed about this, why exactly this is happening and how the Western media is couching all of this.
Ukrainian Tochka-U, or as NATO calls it, Scarab missile, for the vast majority of the last 8-year war that's been going on here. That's what a lot of people don't understand in the West. This war hasn't been just going on for the last couple of weeks. This has been going on for the last almost 8 years. It started May 26, 2014, and I've been here since then, covering what's been going on and how it has been happening here. So again, yeah, this is Donetsk, right on the front line of this war. Just about 5 miles from where I am right now is the actual front line where there's active battles going on. Just about 40 minutes ago, there was another rocket attack on the suburbs of Donetsk, an area called Makivka. A Ukrainian rocket came down on a civilian area. Now, this is the second day in a row. Yesterday, just about 200 meters from where I'm sitting right now, a Ukrainian Tochka-U, or as NATO calls it, Scarab missile, a cluster bomb, which is basically a war crime, came down on a civilian area here in the center of Donetsk, just 200 meters from where I'm sitting right now. And I went there immediately as soon as I heard the explosion, and it was just carnage on the streets. I personally saw 10 civilians lose their life, and the official number is that there was 26 killed and over 50 injured in this attack on the center of Donetsk. And there's no...
Well, what did we think would happen when we're arming Ukraine? They're not asking for only defensive weapons. They are also asking for offensive weapons. Now, just this morning, or maybe late last night, Putin says he is willing to put in place a no-fly zone over those separatist regions.
Right.
So what does that mean? That means he considers it Russian now, and he thinks so this indicates that he believes that Ukraine is actively attacking those places, and he's ready to enforce it. So the West
for years.
Right.
This is the story that hasn't been reported for 8 years. I mean, he's been there covering this war for 8 years. We've showed you the horrific video a few weeks ago. I don't think you were here that day, but awful video of this war that had been unfolding in this region, Ukrainians attacking these ethnic Russians in this region. Now, this is not any kind of Putin apologist. That's what you must understand, is that this is part of the story that we're bringing you this morning is something you're just not hearing. You're not getting the other side of the story. Yes, Putin has invaded. He has killed people. It's awful.
It's costing him many Russian lives.
That has happened.
He is an aggressor, yes.
But the other side of the story needs to be reported, and this is the other side of the story.
This is the equivalent of like if Mexico had, like, northern Mexico was like a bunch of ex-U.S. people, right? They were Americans, but they lived in the northern part of Mexico. And
like a separatist region. Yeah.
And southern Mexico was bombing them. What would we do if anybody even gets close to a military base or doing anything to an American in any country? We're ready to drop a bomb on them.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what Putin was saying. He is trying to help those Russians. Like, that was the impetus of this whole thing.
And this is what the narrative, like Caitlin Johnstone says, I mean, in the awesome power of U.S. propaganda. And she highlights like all of these publications. Just look on the screen here, like that just are funneling this information to you. So I'm going to just read her first two paragraphs here because I think it's poignant. Sometimes I can only stop and stare in awe at the power of the U.S. propaganda machine. Almost the entire global north has been paced into perfect alignment with Cold War agendas, geared towards securing U.S. unipolar dominance by an unprecedented propaganda and censorship campaign. There's nothing intrinsic in Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which says the nation must be strangled to death by unheard of levels of economic warfare from Washington's loyal governments. A huge international consensus needed to be manufactured for that specific response, and the public needed to go along with it. Just absolutely incredible, she says. I mean, she talks about, like securing all of the global narratives via Silicon Valley, Hollywood, news outlets, everything. I'm sure everyone watching right now can say that whether you're in your Facebook feeds, when you're watching social media, you're tuning into your 6 o'clock news, how many people, just like show of hands watching right now, drop me a comment. Like, have you experienced this propaganda? I'm sure all of you. Would you say yes or no? I mean, just let me know legitimately. Maybe we can even put up a poll here.
Well, I think there's a fine line between propaganda and oversimplification, right? So we can say that Vladimir Putin has made a calculation to attack, which he thought would go well, and it hasn't, and lives are being lost. And we can say he is unequivocally the bad guy, but then when we say that the people receiving his bad treatment are unequivocally good, right? We're sort of losing context here. I think the context should be that innocent civilians are dying who have no interest in politics. Their lives are being disrupted, and we absolutely should stand with people like that on both sides, on many sides.
Yeah,
on many sides.
And then, of course, you have this, right, which is,
Right.
European politicians now attempting to nominate Zelensky for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Which the nominations expired January 31st, but they want to open it back up, right? Because this is the hero that we're latching onto in this moment. Has he done heroic things? Maybe. Some people absolutely feel that way. Has he been an aggressor to other people? Yes, that is true. It's really this oversimplification of the narrative that is dangerous and also just unfair.
So I remember we were all sort of laughed when, President Obama was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, do you realize, okay, so you're bombing people right now, President Obama. Like, you're getting the Peace Prize?
Yeah.
You're continuing drone strikes on civilians? Like, you were getting the Peace Prize? Zelensky, it literally is arresting political opponents, shutting down free speech in the form of opposition media or just media in general. Like, that's the hero you want. That's the peaceful leader that we need right now. I see these liberals on Twitter, like they're like beltway liberals that just fall right in line with it. Watching his speech the other day, were just fawning over it. Like, I'm watching him. I stand with you, Vladimir Zelensky. I'm crying along with you. I've changed my Twitter profile so that now it has a Ukrainian flag on it, so that now I am showing you where I stand in the world. And this is the kind of stuff that, and these beltway liberals and so forth, they're not going to get out of their house. They're going to still go to their soccer mom meetings on the weekends and do everything. They're not going to Ukraine. They're not going to see what these journalists are seeing on the front lines. And when you report it, then that's misinformation. That's the big tech will block you and silence you and try to hide it from you.
Yes. Again, I sort of liken this to Japanese internment camps. Like, just because Japan did launch an attack on Pearl Harbor, does that mean that Japanese people need to be put in internment camps? That's basically what we're doing to Russians right now when we're saying shut down all businesses for them, like put them in a black hole where they cannot live life as they knew it because of what their leader did. And I'm incredibly troubled by those sentiments online. Even the shaming, like, for instance, Subway sandwich was trending today because they refused to pull out of Russia, which, their sandwiches are made of yoga mats and are disgusting. But at the same time, we need to shame them because they refuse to pull their business out of people who may or may not need the jobs, distributors who may or may not continue to need those jobs.
Well, and the Russian people still need to eat. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's like we're
Well,
completely
nobody
like,
needs to eat Subway, so
well, no, but
The fake tuna.
Yeah, but I mean, if McDonald's isn't there, what else are they going to do? You know, like, but the thing is, like, people are putting this on, like, I see the sentiment on social media of people being against the Russian people, you know, and it's like these people are no more guilty than we are of what all the atrocities we're doing all over the world. You know, you can't
Yes.
blame us for that.
Well, I
I was
think
even.
Natalie.
Go ahead, Phil.
I was gonna say, I think Natalie really hit the nail on the head when she was saying like the people don't care, and that's really the thing. Like you've got these I was saying like in the pre-show, like the hegemony is just at war with each other, but they're not the ones paying the price. It's just everyday ordinary people that really don't care.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, like any of the people in like the Donbass region, they don't care if they're Ukrainian or Russian where the border is drawn. They just don't want to. They want to be able to eat. They want to be able to raise their families. They want to be able to live a decent life, and that's what most people want. And,
Yeah,
and so,
do you think
like,
do you think this
Yeah.
old woman who just wants to sleep at night where her door wasn't kicked in now because she has no heat? Because
Well, does anybody know what language she's speaking? Because I do think that there are people who care to continue to speak Russia, even though the Ukrainian government, even though the Ukrainian government has declared it a minority language that should be stamped out in that region. There are people who want to continue to be, the religion there is Orthodox, Christian. It's
I don't know, but Barbara
I'm
Waite.
sorry. I
Barbara
think
Waite
those things matter to those people. Absolutely.
Barbara Waite in our chat says, guilty. I admit I love the Subway sweet onion chicken teriyaki yoga mat sandwich. Like,
hey, I'm actually a
hey,
big fan
Barbara.
of their tuna, so I get that. Like my
And
daughter
we know,
loves Subway.
and Philip, watching this show and being a producer on the show, knows that the tuna was found to not be actually tuna, and even still, Philip is eating.
We're
that
going to have to
sub.
put
Well,
tuna.
to
in-
put a clarifier on that, it wasn't that they found it wasn't tuna. It was that it had been processed to the point where they couldn't pull tuna DNA out of it. It is tuna. It's just the processing was like they couldn't find tuna DNA like complete.
Okay.
So
Okay, let's call it tuna.
exactly. I
Is
like
that okay by you?
I like their
Yep.
meatball sub. I don't know where those meatballs are coming from, but I haven't had one in about 10 years, so I don't know if they've evolved. I don't know, but anyway,
I
Well,
used
to
to
go
like
back and speak to that really
Togos. Do you guys know what that is?
toga.
Togos,
yeah.
is a West Coast sandwich chain that competes with Subway, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Much superior.
Go ahead, David.
Well, I was just gonna say, and to go back to that, I think those people do care because like there's pride in being Russian. You know, there's pride in being like
Sure.
a lot of people take pride in where they're from. You know, like
Right.
like I used to being an American, but not so
yeah,
much
but,
anymore.
But nobody's asking these people like, would you be willing to go through what's happening right now in order to be a part of of Russia, or would you rather just live your daily life? Like I think yes, they care, but ultimately, like in the hierarchy of what's important and what's not important, I don't think very many people would vote for, yeah, I'm willing to go through all of this to have this Russian identity as opposed to a Ukrainian identity.
To be a part and to be pulled apart by the politics of a Western imperial move, right? That's exactly what's watching. You know, the only reason you literally attack a food truck, false flag operations here to make it look like Russian aggression, like attacking civilians, and then you have reporters who are smarter than that and realizing and understanding what's actually happening, using the very cluster bombs that they're getting from Western imperial powers. You blow up a bus, you blow up a civilian bus, and you try to pretend that it's Russian, just like you're putting those. We saw the Azov Brigade the other day putting those military batteries on top of residential buildings, on top of kindergartens. Like, for what purpose, right? Just awful, just awful to see people, these poor civilians who are caught in this imperial power struggle. And that's exactly what Caitlin Johnstone is talking about. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.